Imagine New York City, with its bright lights and towering skyscrapers. Atop one of these buildings, in the majestic financial tower, resides William Reeves, a multi-millionaire who has conquered the world of finance, but whose heart harbors immense loneliness. He never imagined that his life of luxury and control would be turned upside down when he crossed paths with a girl named Emily, a young girl with sad and innocent eyes. Unbeknownst to him, William feels an inexplicable attraction to this child, who, behind her fragility, hides deep secrets and sufferings. Emily's presence is the key to dark mysteries involving networks of illegal adoptions and child trafficking. The search for truth will lead William to confront powerful and corrupt figures, as well as painful revelations about his own family. What will William discover in the shadows? Can he protect Emily and regain the hope he thought was lost? Join this journey of love, justice, and transformation. And before we dive into this story, full of unexpected twists and acts of courage, comment below where you're watching from today. And if this narrative of struggle and overcoming inspires you, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. William Reeves observed the city from his penthouse on the 50th floor of the financial tower. At 45, he was the epitome of success, a multi-millionaire, attractive, and respected in the world of finance. However, his hazel eyes reflected a loneliness that all his money couldn't fill. "Mr. Reeves, your trainer is waiting for you in the gym," his assistant announced over the intercom. William sighed, adjusting his expensive suit before heading to the private elevator. Boxing was more than a hobby. It was his escape valve, the only way to release the tension accumulated from years of ruthless business and difficult decisions. In the gym, his trainer, Jack Jess, was waiting with gloves ready. "Ready to sweat, boss?" William nodded, taking off his jacket and shirt. His toned body was a testament to endless hours of exercise and discipline. They began with the warm-up, but something felt different. William was distracted, his movements less precise than usual. In a moment of carelessness, he received a blow that made him stumble. "Watch out, boss!" Jack exclaimed, but it was too late. William fell to the ground, a sharp pain shooting through his body. He tried to get up, but the pain was unbearable. "Call an ambulance," he growled through gritted teeth. Hours later, in the most exclusive hospital in the city, William received news that would change his life forever. "Mr. Reeves, I regret to inform you that the injury has caused irreparable damage. You won't be able to have children," the doctor explained solemnly. William's world crumbled at that moment. All his life he had dreamed of being a father, of having an heir to leave his empire to. Now, that dream was vanishing like smoke between his fingers. Days later, still recovering from the injury and the news, William decided to take a walk through the city, something he rarely did. He needed fresh air, needed to feel alive. It was then that he saw her for the first time. A small girl, with dark skin and bright eyes, selling flowers on a corner. Something in her gaze captured William's attention. He approached, intrigued. "Hello, little one. What's your name?" he asked with a smile. The girl looked at him with distrust at first, but something in William's warmth made her relax. "Emily," she responded timidly. "It's a beautiful name. How much are your flowers?" Before Emily could answer, a woman appeared out of nowhere, grabbing the girl's arm roughly. "Emily, what have I told you about talking to strangers?" William observed the scene with concern. The woman, white-skinned and unkempt in appearance, looked at the girl with barely disguised contempt. "Excuse me, ma'am, I just wanted to buy some flowers," William intervened. The woman looked him up and down, assessing his expensive outfit. Her attitude changed instantly. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I'm Sarah, Emily's stepmother. How many flowers would you like?" William bought all the flowers, paying much more than asked. While Sarah eagerly counted the money, he crouched down to talk to Emily. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Emily. I hope to see you again," he said with a warm smile. The girl nodded, a small smile lighting up her face for an instant before Sarah dragged her away. William watched them leave, a knot forming in his throat. Something about that girl had awakened a protective instinct he thought was dormant, and something about Sarah's attitude gave him a bad feeling. As he returned to his penthouse, William couldn't get the image of Emily out of his head. Unbeknownst to him, That chance encounter would be the catalyst that would change the course of his life forever. The days following the encounter with Emily were a whirlwind of emotions for William. He couldn't get the image of the little girl out of his head, her eyes full of a sadness unbecoming of a child her age. Determined to do something, he began to frequent the area where he had seen her, hoping to find her again. One afternoon, while walking through the nearby park, he saw her sitting alone on a bench, hugging her knees. He approached cautiously. "Hello, Emily? Do you remember me?" The girl looked up, a mixture of surprise and relief in her eyes. "Flower man," she murmured. William smiled, sitting down beside her. "Are you okay? Where's your stepmother?" Emily shrugged, avoiding his gaze. "Working, I guess. She leaves me here until it gets dark." William's heart sank. "And your father?" "Robert isn't my real dad," Emily responded in a low voice. "He and Sarah adopted me a while ago, but—" She stopped, as if she had said too much. William noticed her discomfort and decided not to push. "Would you like an ice cream?" he offered, trying to cheer her up. For the first time, he saw a genuine smile on Emily's face. As they ate the ice cream, the girl relaxed, telling him about her school and her dreams of being an artist someday. Suddenly, Emily's face darkened. William followed her gaze and saw Sarah approaching with a barely contained fury expression. "Emily, what have I told you about talking to strangers?" she shouted, grabbing the girl's arm. William stood up, intervening. "Mum, we were just talking. There's no need to be aggressive." Sarah looked at him with contempt. "You don't know anything. This girl is a liar and ungrateful. You should be grateful for everything we do for you, Emily." William felt his blood boil. "Mum, I suggest you calm down. If there's any problem, we can discuss it like adults." Sarah let out a bitter laugh. "Discuss it? Who do you think you are? We don't need your charity or your interference. Let's go, Emily." As they walked away, William saw how Emily looked back, her eyes pleading. At that moment, he made a decision. He would do everything possible to help that girl. That night, in his penthouse, William couldn't sleep. Memories of his own past tormented him. Images of a small boy, his biological son lost years ago, mixed with those of Emily. How could fate have been so cruel? First, it took away his son, and now it denied him the possibility of being a father again. Determined to act, he called his best friend and trusted lawyer, Henry. "I need your help, Henry. There's a girl. I think she's in danger. I need you to investigate her adoptive parents." Henry, accustomed to William's unusual requests, didn't question his motives. "Give me the names and I'll see what I can find out." The following days were agony for William. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emily's frightened face. Was she okay? Was she suffering at that moment? Finally, Henry called him with news. "Will, I've found something. Sarah and Robert have suspicious backgrounds. There are irregularities in Emily's adoption, and there's more, a secret bank account with strange movements." William felt his blood run cold. His worst fears seemed to be confirmed. "I need more information, Henry. And I need a plan to get Emily out of there." "Will, be careful," Henry warned. "This could be bigger than we think. There are powerful names involved in that adoption." As he hung up, William looked out the window at the city sprawling below him. Somewhere out there, Emily needed his help, and he was determined to give it to her, no matter the cost. What William didn't know was that his actions had alerted darker forces than he could imagine. Forces that would stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden. William immersed himself fully in the investigation of Sarah and Robert. Each new piece of information he discovered left him more unsettled. The couple had a murky history. Several complaints of child abuse that had mysteriously been dismissed, frequent changes of address, and most worryingly, links to a network of irregular adoptions. One afternoon, while reviewing the documents Henry had provided him, William found something that left him cold. A photo of Sarah with a man he immediately recognized. It was James Montgomery, a powerful juvenile judge known for his efficiency in adoption processes. "Henry, I need you to investigate James Montgomery," William asked over the phone. "I think he's involved in this." "Judge Montgomery? Will, that's playing with fire. That man has connections everywhere." "I don't care. If he's involved in something illegal, especially if it has to do with children, I'm going to expose him. Meanwhile, William continued to look for ways to approach Emily. He decided to donate a considerable sum to her school, which allowed him to organize regular visits as a benefactor. During these visits, he took the opportunity to see Emily and ensure her well-being. On one of these occasions, he noticed bruises on the girl's arms. When he asked about them, Emily completely shut down. "I fell," she muttered, avoiding his gaze. William knew she was lying, but he didn't want to pressure her. Instead, he decided to approach the subject with Emily's teacher. "I'm worried about her," he confessed. "Have you noticed anything unusual?" The teacher, a middle-aged woman named Carol, looked around before speaking in a low voice. "Mr. Reeves, I'm worried too. I've tried to report my suspicions, but they always tell me there's not enough evidence. It's as if someone is protecting that family." Carol's words confirmed William's fears. There was a bigger conspiracy at play, and Emily was trapped in the middle of it all. Determined to get to the bottom of the matter, William hired a private investigator to follow Sarah and Robert. The reports he received were disturbing. The couple frequented nightclubs of dubious reputation and had regular meetings with individuals linked to organized crime. One night, while reviewing the investigator's latest photographs, William noticed something that chilled his blood. In one of the images, partially hidden in the shadows, was Henry, his best friend and trusted lawyer, talking to Robert in a dark alley. The betrayal hit him like a punch to the stomach. Was Henry involved in this? How far did this web of corruption reach? Before he could fully process this revelation, his phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Mr. Reeves," said a distorted voice, "I suggest you stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Some secrets are better left buried." The call cut off, leaving William in a state of shock. The threat was clear, but it only served to strengthen his determination. Now more than ever, he was determined to get to the bottom of this matter and save Emily, no matter the cost. What William didn't know was that his actions were about to trigger a series of events that would shake the foundations of his life and reveal truths he never imagined. William woke up startled, drenched in cold sweat. He had had another nightmare about his lost son, Matthew. In the dream, Matthew transformed into Emily, both children screaming for help as they vanished into darkness. Shaking off the remnants of the dream, William prepared for another day of battle. The phone threat from the night before had only strengthened his resolve. He wasn't going to abandon Emily, not when he felt he was so close to discovering the truth. That morning, he decided to confront Henry directly. He summoned him to his office, prepared for the worst. "Will, what's going on? You seem tense," Henry said as he entered, his usual jovial smile in place. William looked at him intently, searching for any sign of deception. "Henry, is there anything you want to tell me about Emily's case?" Henry's smile faltered for a second. "What do you mean?" Without saying a word, William slid the photograph across the desk. The image of Henry talking to Robert in the alley. Henry's face paled. "Will, I can explain." "It better be a good explanation," William growled. Henry collapsed into the chair, all pretense of innocence gone. "I was investigating on my own. I discovered connections that... Will, this is bigger than you think. It's not just about Emily. There are dozens of children involved, maybe hundreds." William felt the ground move beneath his feet. "What are you saying, Henry?" "We're facing a child trafficking network, Will, false adoptions, fraudulent documents, all orchestrated by powerful people. Judge Montgomery is just the tip of the iceberg." The revelation hit William like a sledgehammer. Suddenly, everything started to make sense. The irregular adoptions, the mysterious protection that seemed to surround Sarah and Robert, the threats. "Why didn't you tell me before?" William demanded. Henry lowered his gaze. "I was afraid. These people are dangerous, Will, and there's something else you should know." William held his breath, preparing for the worst. "Your son, Matthew, I think his disappearance might be related to all of this." William's world stopped for an instant. His son, his little Matthew, who had disappeared years ago without a trace. Could it be possible? "Explain," he managed to say in a strangled voice. "I've been following leads for years, Will. The way Matthew disappeared, the investigations that led nowhere. It all fits with this network's modus operandi. William stood up abruptly, anger and hope fighting inside him. We're going to end this, Henry, right now, not just for Emily but for Matthew, and for all the children who have suffered because of these monsters. Together, William and Henry began to devise a plan. They would use all the resources at their disposal: money, influences, technology. They would leave no stone unturned. Meanwhile, William intensified his efforts to protect Emily. He hired private security to discreetly watch over her and made sure the school was aware of the situation without revealing all the details. One afternoon, while visiting the school, William noticed something strange about Emily. The girl seemed more nervous than usual. "Is everything okay, Emily?" he asked gently. Emily looked around as if making sure no one was listening. "Mr. Will, I overheard Sarah and Robert talking last night. They said something about selling me." William's heart stopped for an instant. His worst fears were confirmed. "Emily, listen to me carefully," he said, crouching down to her level. "I'm not going to let anything bad happen to you. I promise." At that moment, William made a decision that would change the course of everything. He couldn't wait any longer. That very night, he would put his plan into action to get Emily out of that situation, regardless of the consequences. What William didn't know was that his actions were about to trigger a series of events that would reveal a truth as surprising as it was painful, a truth that would connect his past with his present in ways he never imagined. Night fell over the city like a cloak of tension. William, accompanied by Henry and a private security team, prepared for the most important operation of his life: rescuing Emily. "Are you sure about this?" "Will?" Henry asked for the umpteenth time. "If something goes wrong, there's no turning back," William responded with determination. "I'm not going to leave that girl one more minute with those monsters." The plan was simple in theory, but dangerous in practice. Using the gathered information, they knew that Sarah and Robert would be out that night, leaving Emily alone at home. It was their opportunity. As they approached the rundown building where the family lived, William felt his heart beating hard. Was he doing the right thing? What if things went wrong? Suddenly, a heart-wrenching scream broke the night's silence. It came from Emily's apartment. Without thinking twice, William ran towards the building, ignoring Henry's warnings. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time, fear giving him a strength he didn't know he had. Upon reaching the apartment, he found the door ajar. What he saw upon entering left him frozen. Emily was on the floor, curled up in a corner, while Sarah threatened her with a belt. Robert, visibly drunk, shouted incoherently from the couch, "Get away from her!" William roared, stepping between Sarah and the girl. Sarah, surprised by the intrusion, backed away. "Who the hell do you think you are? This is my house." "Mr. Will," Emily sobbed, clinging to his leg. At that moment, Henry and the security team burst into the apartment. Everything became a chaos of shouts and movement. "Police!" a voice shouted from the door. Judge Montgomery entered, followed by several officers. "What's going on here?" William, with Emily in his arms, faced the judge. "What's happening is that we're dismantling your little child trafficking operation, Montgomery." The judge's face contorted with fury. "You don't know what you're talking about, Reeves. Officers, arrest this man for breaking and entering and kidnapping." But before the police could move, Henry intervened. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Montgomery. We have evidence of everything, your involvement, the false adoptions, everything." The chaos that followed was indescribable. Accusations flew back and forth. Sarah and Robert shouted. The police seemed confused about whom to obey. In the midst of it all, William could only think about protecting Emily. The girl trembled in his arms, clinging to him as if he were her only hope. Suddenly, a shout from Robert silenced everyone. "Enough! I'm going to tell the whole truth." All eyes turned to him. Robert, with bloodshot eyes, looked directly at William. "You want to know the truth about Emily, don't you? Well, here it is. She's your daughter." The silence that followed was deafening. William felt the world stop around him. His daughter. How was that possible? "You're lying," he managed to say, though a part of him began to doubt. Robert let out a bitter laugh. "Why would I lie now? Emily is the result of an affair your late wife had years ago. When she was born, they decided to give her up for adoption to avoid the scandal. We were just the intermediaries. William looked at Emily, searching her face for some sign of familiarity. The girl's eyes, which had always seemed familiar to him, now looked back at him with a mixture of fear and hope. "But what about Matthew?" he asked, his mind struggling to process all this information. It was Henry who answered, his voice heavy with regret. "Will, I think it's time you knew the whole truth. Matthew never existed." William's world crumbled at that instant. As the police began to arrest Sarah, Robert, and Judge Montgomery, he could only hug Emily, trying to assimilate the truth that had just been revealed. His past, his present, and his future had intertwined in a way he never could have imagined. And in the midst of all this chaos, holding the daughter he never knew he had, William realized that his life was about to change forever. The days following Emily's dramatic rescue were a whirlwind of emotions and revelations for William. As the authorities dismantled the child trafficking network, he faced a truth that shook the foundations of his existence. In the safety of his penthouse, with Emily sleeping in the guest room, William confronted Henry, demanding answers. "Explain everything to me," he said, his voice a mixture of exhaustion and determination. No more lies, no more secrets. Henry, visibly exhausted, sat down across from his friend. "It all started 9 years ago. Will, your wife, Ellen, was unfaithful to you." William closed his eyes, the pain of betrayal mixing with the memory of his beloved deceased wife. When she discovered she was pregnant, she panicked. She knew the baby couldn't be yours because you were already sterile at that time. The revelation hit William like a punch. What? But the accident in the gym. It was a farce. Will. Ellen orchestrated everything to hide the truth. The doctor who gave you the diagnosis was bought off. William stood up, unable to keep still. His mind was a whirlwind of questions and conflicting emotions. Why, Henry? Why maintain this lie for so many years? Henry lowered his gaze. "Ellen made me promise I would protect you from the truth. When she died in that car accident, shortly after giving Emily up for adoption, I decided to keep the promise. We invented the story of Matthew, a son who never existed, to give you the comfort of fatherhood, even if it was in the form of loss." William collapsed onto the sofa, overwhelmed. His entire life, his dreams, his nightmares, everything had been built on an elaborate lie. And Emily? How did she end up with Sarah and Robert? Ellen arranged the adoption through Judge Montgomery. She wanted to make sure the girl was far away, where you could never find her. She never imagined that Sarah and Robert would be so cruel. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with years of deception and secrets finally revealed. "Will, I know I've betrayed your trust," Henry began, but William interrupted him. "I need time, Henry, time to process all of this. For now, the only thing that matters is Emily." As if summoned, the door to the bedroom opened slowly. Emily, her eyes still sleepy, peeked out timidly. "Mr. Will," she called softly. William approached her, kneeling to be at her level. "What's wrong, sweetie?" "Did you have a nightmare?" Emily nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "I dreamed I was back with them, that you abandoned me." William's heart broke at those words. Without thinking twice, he hugged the girl tightly. "Never, do you hear me? I will never abandon you, Emily. You're my daughter, and I promise that from now on I'll always be here for you." As he hugged Emily, William felt something heal inside him. The void he had felt for so many years began to fill with the unconditional love he felt for this girl, his daughter. Henry observed the scene from afar, a mixture of relief and remorse on his face. He knew that the road to redemption would be long, both for him and for everyone involved in this story of deception. But seeing William and Emily together, he felt a spark of hope. The future was uncertain, full of legal and emotional challenges. But for the first time in a long time, William felt he had a clear purpose: to be the father Emily deserved and to build the family they had both longed for so long. The months following were a whirlwind of changes and adaptations for William and Emily. While the legal case against the child trafficking network progressed, they began the delicate process of getting to know each other and building a relationship. William transformed one of the rooms in his penthouse into Emily's dream bedroom, full of bright colors and toys. However, he soon discovered that material gifts were not what the girl needed most. One night, as they were having dinner together, Emily dropped her fork and looked at William with eyes full of uncertainty. Can I call you Dad?" she asked in a low voice. William felt his heart expand. "I'd love for you to do that, sweetie. If you want to." "Of course." The smile that lit up Emily's face was more valuable than all the millions William had earned in his life. However, not everything was easy. Emily had frequent nightmares and moments of anxiety, after effects of the abuse she had suffered. William hired the best child therapists, determined to help his daughter heal. Meanwhile, the outside world kept turning. The press had gotten wind of the story and wouldn't stop harassing them. Sensationalist headlines appeared every day. Tycoon discovers secret daughter. Posthumous infidelity scandal shakes high society. William was forced to issue a public statement asking for respect for Emily's privacy. Although the media attention was overwhelming, he remained firm in his decision to protect his daughter at all costs. In the legal realm, things were progressing slowly. The trial against Sarah, Roberty, and Judge Montgomery dragged on, with new revelations emerging every week. William testified several times, reliving painful moments but determined to see justice done. One day, while reviewing case documents with his new legal team, William received an unexpected call. It was Carol, Emily's teacher. "Mr. Reeves, I'm sorry to bother you, but I think you should come to the school. Emily had an incident." William's heart raced as he hurried to the school. He found Emily sitting in the principal's office, her eyes red from crying. "What happened, sweetie?" he asked, kneeling in front of her. Between sobs, Emily explained that some classmates had made fun of her, calling her the abandoned girl, and saying that William only wanted her out of pity. Anger and pain mixed in William's chest. He hugged his daughter tightly, whispering words of comfort. "Emily, look at me," he said softly. "You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. I love you more than anything in this world, and nothing anyone says will change that." That night, after putting Emily to bed, William made a decision. He called Henry, who was still struggling to rebuild their friendship. "I need your help," he said without preamble. "I want to create a foundation to help children like Emily, victims of trafficking and abuse." Henry, surprised but moved, responded, "Count me in, Will. It's time to use our resources for something truly important." The following months were a whirlwind of activity. William divided his time between caring for Emily, managing his businesses, and setting up the new foundation. He named the organization New Dawn, in honor of the second chance he and Emily had given each other. The foundation soon became a beacon of hope for many. It offered legal support, therapy, and resources to children and families affected by trafficking and abuse. William even began working on legislative changes to strengthen child protection laws. A year after Emily's rescue, father and daughter were at the inauguration of New Dawn's first shelter center. As William gave his speech, with Emily by his side, he couldn't help but get emotional. "A year ago, my life changed forever," he said, his voice laden with emotion. "I discovered I had a daughter. But more than that, I discovered a purpose. Every child deserves love, security, and opportunities, and as long as I have breath, I will fight to make it so." Emily, with tears in her eyes, took her father's hand and squeezed it tightly. At that moment, surrounded by people who shared their vision of a better world, William knew they had found their true home. The road hadn't been easy, and there were still challenges ahead. But together, William and Emily had transformed a story of deception and pain into one of love, hope, and redemption. As New Dawn flourished and the relationship between William and Emily strengthened, the shadows of the past lurked in the corners, waiting for the moment to resurface. One autumn afternoon, as William was reviewing some documents in his office, he received a call that would shake the foundations of the new life he had built. "Mr. Reeves," said a female voice on the other end of the line. "My name is Victoria Gomez. I was a friend of your wife, Ellen." William tensed, Ellen's name still evoking complex emotions. "How can I help you, Mrs. Gomez?" "There's something you need to know," Victoria continued, her voice trembling. "Something about Ellen and about Emily." William's heart skipped a beat. "I'm listening." "Ellen confessed something to me before she died. Something that tormented her. Emily has a twin." The world seemed to stop around William. "What? That's impossible." I know, it sounds incredible," Victoria interrupted, "but Ellen gave birth to twins, Emily and a boy. The boy was given up for adoption separately to ensure they would never be connected." William collapsed into his chair, his mind a whirlwind of questions and emotions. "Then why are you telling me this now?" "Because I saw the news about your foundation, because I believe that boy, Emily's brother, could be in danger. Ellen arranged his adoption with the same people who took Emily." The implications of this revelation hit William like a sledgehammer. Not only did he have to process the existence of another child, but that child could be suffering the same fate Emily had faced. "I need all the information you have," William said, his voice laden with determination. "I'm going to find that boy." After hanging up, William sat motionless, trying to assimilate this new truth. How would he tell Emily she had a twin brother? How would he face this new search without opening old wounds? He knew the path that opened before him was full of uncertainty and dangers, but he also knew he couldn't turn his back on this new challenge. Somewhere out there was another child who needed him, a child who was part of his family. With resolution, William stood up and looked out the window at the city sprawling below him. The search for this lost child would not only change his life and Emily's, but also threaten to unearth even darker secrets from the past. What William didn't know was that this search would lead him to face his deepest fears and question everything he thought he knew about love, family, and redemption. The following months became a race against time for William. With the help of Henry and a team of private investigators, he began the search for Emily's twin brother. He decided to keep the information secret from Emily for the time being, fearing to give her false hope or disturb the stability they had worked so hard to build. However, the girl, now 10 years old and increasingly perceptive, noticed that something was worrying her father. "Dad, is everything okay?" she asked one night as they were having dinner. William, surprised by the question, tried to smile. "Of course, sweetie, I'm just a little busy with work." Emily looked at him with those eyes that seemed to see right through him. "You know you can tell me anything, right? We're a team." Those words almost broke William's resolve. He hugged his daughter, promising himself that he would soon tell her the whole truth. Meanwhile, the investigation progressed slowly. Every lead seemed to lead to a dead end. Adoption records were altered or destroyed, and many of those involved in the child trafficking network had disappeared or remained silent. One day, while reviewing some documents in his office, William received a call from one of his investigators. "Mr. Reeves, I think we've found something. A boy who matches the description and age. He's in an orphanage on the outskirts of the city." William's heart skipped a beat. "I'm heading there right now." The trip to the orphanage was an agony of anticipation and fear. What if it was him? What if it wasn't? How would the boy react? Upon arrival, he was greeted by the orphanage director, a woman with a tired but kind appearance. "Mr. Reeves, it's an honor to have you here. Your foundation has done so much for us." William could barely focus on the conversation. His eyes scanned every corner, looking for a face that could be Emily's reflection. Finally, in the playground, he saw him, a boy with dark hair and familiar eyes, playing alone in a corner. The resemblance to Emily was undeniable. "What's his name?" William asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Matthew," the director responded. "He arrived here a few months ago. His story is a mystery." Matthew, the name William had given to his imaginary son years ago. The coincidence was too great to be ignored. With his heart beating strongly, William approached the boy. "Hello, Matthew. My name is William." The boy looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and distrust. "Hello," he responded timidly. At that moment, looking into Matthew's eyes, William knew without a doubt that he had found Emily's brother, his son. Emotions overwhelmed him. Joy, fear, love, all mixed in an overwhelming whirlwind. "Matthew, he said softly. "I have something very important to tell you about your family, about your sister." The boy's eyes widened. "I have a sister." William nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "Yes, and she's been waiting for you without knowing it. We both have been waiting for you." As he began to explain to Matthew who he was and why he was there, William knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, a chapter full of challenges, but also of love and hope. What he didn't know was that, while he was finding Matthew, dark forces were moving in the shadows, threatening to destroy everything he had built. The news of Matthew's existence shook the foundations of William and Emily's life. The meeting between the twins was emotional and surreal. Two children, identical but unknown to each other, meeting for the first time, united by an invisible but powerful bond. Emily, initially shocked, soon embraced the idea of having a brother with enthusiasm. "I always felt like something was missing," she confessed to William one night. "Now I know what it was." The first days were a whirlwind of adaptations and discoveries. Matthew, shy and reserved at first, gradually began to open up, especially with Emily. The twins seemed to have an almost telepathic connection, understanding each other's thoughts and emotions without the need for words. However, the happiness of the family reunion was soon threatened. One afternoon, while William was working in his office, he received an alarming call from Henry. "Will, we have a problem," his friend said, the urgency evident in his voice. "Someone is trying to reopen Matthew's adoption case. They want to question your paternity." William felt the ground open beneath his feet. "Who? Why now?" "I'm not sure, but there are rumors that some members of the old child trafficking network are involved. They fear Matthew might reveal information that could incriminate them." The threat was clear. The enemies of the past were not willing to let William and his newly reunited family live in peace. Determined to protect his children at all costs, William intensified the security around the family and immersed himself in a legal battle to secure permanent custody of Matthew. Meanwhile, the twins, oblivious to the storm that was brewing, strengthened their bond every day. One afternoon, while playing in the garden, Matthew suddenly stopped, his face serious. "Emily," he said in a low voice, "do you ever feel like you remember things you shouldn't remember?" Emily looked at him, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes I have dreams or memories of a dark place with lots of sad people and a woman crying while they separate us." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had had those dreams too, but had never dared to mention them. "I have them too," she whispered. That night, the twins shared their discovery with William. The revelation left him stunned. Could the children be remembering the moment of their separation at birth? This new information not only strengthened William's case for Matthew's custody, but also provided valuable clues for the ongoing investigation into the child trafficking network. As the legal case progressed, William found himself confronting his past in a way he never expected. On the stand before a packed courtroom, he had to relive every painful moment, every lie, and every truth of the past years. "Mr. Reeves," asked the opposing lawyer, "how can we be sure that you are really the father of these children?" William, his voice laden with emotion but firm, responded, "Because love is not measured by blood, but by actions. I have loved these children from the moment I knew of their existence. I have fought for them. I have changed my life for them. They are mine in all the ways that matter." The silence in the room was palpable. Even the judge seemed moved by the sincerity in William's words. At that moment, Emily and Matthew, who had been sitting silently in the back of the room, stood up. Hand in hand, they walked towards William. "We want to speak too," Emily said, her voice small but determined. The judge, surprised but intrigued, nodded. "Go ahead, children." Matthew was the first to speak. "I didn't know my dad until recently, but since I've known him, he's given me more love and security than anyone in my entire life," Emily continued. "And I remember what it was like before. I was afraid all the time, but Dad saved me. He saved both of us." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The opposing lawyer visibly moved and withdrew his objections. The judge, with an emotional smile, struck his gavel. "I see no reason to prolong this further. William Reeves." You are granted full and permanent custody of Emily and Matthew Reeves." The joy that followed was indescribable. William hugged his children, tears of happiness running down his cheeks. But the story didn't end there. In the days that followed, thanks to the information provided by the twins' memories, authorities managed to dismantle the last vestiges of the child trafficking network. William, inspired by everything that had happened, decided to expand his foundation even further. New Dawn Tower became an international reference in the fight against child trafficking and in child protection. A year later, at the Foundation's annual gala, William took the stage with Emily and Matthew by his side. 2 years ago, I was a lonely man, believing I could never be a father, he began. Today, I stand here with my 2 miracles. Our story is proof that love can overcome any obstacle. That family is not defined by blood, but by the heart. Looking at his children, he continued, "Emily, Matthew, you saved me as much as I saved you. You taught me the true meaning of unconditional love." Turning to the audience, William concluded, "And to all of you, I ask that you never underestimate the power of a second chance. Every child deserves love. Every family deserves a chance to heal. Together, we can create a world where no child feels alone or unloved." As the audience rose to applaud, William hugged his children. At that moment, he knew he had found his true purpose in life, not in business or wealth, but in the love of his family and in the mission of helping others find the same happiness. The story of William, Emily, and Matthew was a testament that, even in the darkest moments, love and hope can triumph. And as they looked to the future, they knew that together they could overcome any challenge life presented them.